All right, today I'm here with Rohan Chambers. He's a CPA and a CIA, and he's got an interesting story. He started working in public accounting back in Jamaica. From there, he became a teacher and then actually won Teacher of the Year in Jamaica. It was the first time they gave that award. He came to the U.S. in 2006 and kept teaching on the side, as well as working in internal audit for Pepsi. He worked at Susquehanna Bank in risk and compliance, and eventually moved into SOX compliance roles. And all through this time, he worked as an adjunct professor at various universities, as well as at even Becker for CPA prep. So he's got a lot of experience. Currently, he's the director of SOX compliance at Navient, and we're here in Reisterstown, Virginia. Thank you for inviting me to your home. It's nice to talk to you.
Actually, Maryland, not Virginia.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maryland. I get mixed up with all these places I travel to. Okay, so if you could we just dive into your career? Could you just tell us a little bit about how accounting has influenced and benefited your career?
Well, if I go back to high school, it's so interesting how your teachers have a great influence on what you choose as a career. I love math, and my career was supposed to go in the engineering, architectural type field, right? But then this accounting professor came in, all fancy dressed and driving a fancy car. The physics teacher was driving an old rundown vehicle. So I said, hey, if the accounting teacher looks like this, I want to be an accountant, right? So that's one thing in school. But my mom used to also work for Deloitte as one of the executive assistants to the partners. I didn't realize that until I started to get serious at my school, and I realized, oh, my mom works at a CPA firm. So I realized the value of numbers, just hearing conversations and listening to graduates of my high school come back and give prep talks. And they always tell me, if you love math, accounting is good. And it's also a good route to management. And just my math inclination gave me that kind of confidence to say, hey, let me do accounting because money is important. You can manage people's money, manage your own money. So it's a good foundation to have some kind of financial security, both for yourself and then also to have advice, give advice to other people as well.
When I think of math and accounting, my mind goes to Ben Affleck in the movie The Accountant.
Yes.
And he's got numbers written on the windows and stuff. And he creates a story using numbers.
Mm-hmm. And he applied a couple of accounting concepts. One was Benford's Law. And not many people realize, unless you're into accounting, you would not realize what he did, which is where certain numbers appear a certain proportion of times, right? So for example, numbers starting with the digit 1 appears like about 30% of the times, natural numbers. Look at any book. You have 10, 100, 1,000. No book goes to like 2,000, right? So 1 occurs most often, and then 2 occurs less, then 3 occurs less. So you use that methodology to help him figure out some of the anomalies that existed.
And that's used in audit, right?
Correct.
If the number appears too many times, it seems irregular.
Correct.
So it could be fraud.
Correct.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so you talked a little bit about math.
Right.
If you're not good at math, but you want to be an accountant, are you doomed, or can...
No, you're not doomed, because I've seen people with degrees in psychology become CPA partners in accounting.
Interesting.
Right? So university gives you a good education, right? It teaches you how to research, how to acquire knowledge. And once you have that ability to research properly, think critically, right? And be patient, anybody can become an accountant. And then obviously you have different kinds of accountants too, right? You can be focused on tax. You can become straight up accountant where you punch in numbers every month in. You can become an auditor. Which an auditor, there's also internal operational type audits, which are less numbers oriented. It's more like common sense and thinking like a criminal sometimes, right? So you don't necessarily have to be an expert in numbers because of the different branches of accounting that you can go off into. Of course, there's the IT side of it. You can be an application designer. So there are different facets to accounting that doesn't necessarily require a strong aptitude in math.
So you mentioned IT, and that's a good segue into my next question, which is AI is making a big impact on the world. It's changing so much how we do business. What impact do you think AI has on accounting? Are we going to be replaced, or maybe it's actually a solution to the shortage?
I look at it as just basic IT on steroids, right? Back in the 80s and early 80s, you heard people saying, oh, accountants are going to be removed and replaced by computers. That hasn't happened yet, right? Granted, there are some jobs that are done much more efficiently with the use of a computer, but you still need someone to interpret the data and input data and design the codes in these IT applications. So there are benefits to AI, right? But you still need someone human to step back and analyze what the output is. So it's going to be useful, but there are going to be some trial and error going along the way, where some uses it could probably read a leasing contract for you and spell out a couple of things, right? But you still need that human element to go and review that, because things can be interpreted differently. So I'm not as worried about AI as some people are.
Could AI do your job?
No, it could not, because my job currently in SOX compliance requires me to first understand a process, right? Understand the risk in a process. And sometimes that comes through interviewing employees and understanding how they perceive the process to work, right? And when you look at gaps in a process, AI cannot analyze what's happening in terms of your control environment. It may be able to detect anomalies, right? But then again, you could have the same control worded 10 different times, but for different departments, and that was intentional. AI may come back and say, hey, well, you had the same control written 10 times. Well, that was purposeful. So still you need that human element, right, to sit on top of the technology and interpret the technology the right way.
So correct me if I'm wrong, SOX comes from Sarbanes-Oxley,
correct,
which came after the financial crisis. There was like Enron, I think, had an influence on the regulation.
Right, and Arthur Andersen was a CPA firm that got squashed.
And so the goal is to help ensure that there's credibility in financial statements, and so there's rules around controls.
Right.
Could you just tell us a little bit about, what you do and why it's important?
All right, so we have financial statements that we produce every quarter, right? And as an investor, you want to be confident that the financial statements are credible and they represent what they purport to represent. In arriving at those numbers on the financial statements, there are a number of processes that companies have to go through, and within those processes, you want to have controls to make sure that the numbers are actually what they're supposed to be. So we have different controls, reconciliations, approvals, reviews of different reports from external parties. So all along the way, you want to make sure if we say revenue is 100 million, it's really 100 million, right? If expenses are 2 million, it's really 2 million. So what are the control points and steps that the company went through to verify that those numbers are accurate before they actually release that? So my job is to make sure that throughout the controls that we have in the company, that they are designed properly and are also working or operating as they are designed. So we have a testing infrastructure where we self-test our own controls. We have my company right now, Navient, we have close to 600 key controls, and our model is that everyone's job function involves some amount of SOX compliance work. So there's some person in a team that is testing the controls that department has. We try to have proper segregation of duties, so if you're the one that's performing a bank reconciliation, I can't have you testing the same control to make sure it works, right? You've got to have somebody else who understands bank reconciliation to say, hey, was it done properly? And that's the tester. So we have all those different tests going on throughout the year. End of the day, we want to make sure that all the tests pass. If any test failed, we're going to have an exception, but that's normal. You're going to have humans making errors, right? So we have a process. We test our controls twice for the year. We're confident that our controls are working, But then we have the auditors that come in still and do their own independent testing. So they may find something else too, right? But if we have a strong internal testing infrastructure, it's less likely for the auditors to come and find errors on the back end. So this is a win-win for everyone. We have good internal controls, auditors find less issues, you're going to have less deficiencies. Our financial statements will not have a material weakness, so there's not going to be any publicly issued detrimental thing about our financial statements. Our stock price will stay up. So having a good internal control structure ensures that your financial statements are credible, there are no major deficiencies, and therefore no negative impact to your financials, your stock price.
So what would a typical day be like then? You mentioned 600 tests,
right.
Or 600 controls.
Right.
Is it in a database?
Right, so it's in a database, and different companies have different models. So when I used to work at the bank, I had a team of 7 people that reported to me. We went around the entire company testing all the controls as a separate independent unit. Good? Companies are finding different ways to be more efficient these days. Our model is that we self-test our own controls. So there's a database of controls, and you can print it out into an Excel format, right? We use what we call a GRC tool called Archer. So all the controls are in a database on this website. You go in there, you can update your controls. You can, when it's time to do testing, we create a test record. Someone goes in there, enters the test results, uploads the evidence. And so I oversee all of that. So I go in, may do a spot check here and there. Definitely if a control has failed the testing, I go look at it and log it as a deficiency, an exception. So you may have just 5 exceptions. Throughout testing, I log all of them. Here are our 5 exceptions, right? The auditors may come in and find some more, 6 more, here are 11 exceptions. So at the end of the day, are these just regular exceptions, or do they rise to a significant level or a material weakness level? So we test twice per year, in May to July, and then August to January. But throughout the year, there are other issues that come up, because we're so heavily regulated at Navient. We're a student loan company, so we have different entities coming in and looking at our stuff. So throughout the year, there are other things that are happening. But our major time to test controls, it's the May to July time frame for the first half of the year, and then we have time to fix any errors for the second half of testing, which starts like about October, November, going through to January. So throughout that period, we make sure the controls are working, and we create a report to our audit committee, and here are our controls, everything is fine, and we're good to go.
And I'm trying to recall, you report to the board directly, right, for independence?
No, so that our internal audit does that.
Oh, internal audit, okay.
So I'm a part of the controllers group.
Okay.
But we still have to report our SOX compliance status on a quarterly basis to the audit committee.
Gotcha. Can I ask, have you ever in your career experienced anything like uncovering fraud or finding something?
Yes. So
I don't know if you can talk about it.
Right. I'll talk about the ones I can talk about. At one of the prior employers, there was a case of employees being overpaid. So when you have overtime, sometimes it's time and a half. So your hourly rate may be $50, right? But then you work overtime, that hourly rate now becomes $75. Good. There was a case where for 3 months, a few employees worked overtime, and their entire hours worked were being paid at the overtime rate.
Oh, wow.
Not just the excess, the overtime excess. A simple spreadsheet error that I caught. So that's all I'll say on that one.
Okay. Wow.
It's funny when employees get overpaid, they don't complain, right? But the minute you are $1 short on their paycheck, they're calling you, hey, my paycheck is short this month. Right?
Wow, yeah, good catch.
So, that was simple Excel spreadsheet formulas.
So the numbers, do tell a story.
It definitely can.
Would you recommend accounting to somebody at this point? There's finance, there's tech,
right.
all these there's engineering. I mean, would you still go into accounting?
Yeah, so because you're different types of accounting, you have to kind of choose a path that fits your personality, right? I don't like to be at a desk all day for 8 hours, just crunching numbers, right? I like to be 2 hours, 3 hours at the desk, and up and down. So the starting point for an accountant, what I would recommend to a college graduate is to go to a CPA firm, right? If you go to a small firm, you're able to do a lot more work initially, and you can look at different aspects of accounting. You can do some tax, some auditing, whatever, right? If you go to the big CPA firms, you may get that knowledge, but it may take you a longer while to get around, okay? But either way, it's a good exposure, and I've always been told that. So that was the reason why I made sure I worked at a CPA firm in my first job. Then you're able to see what part of accounting you may like, okay? I am a very active sports person, so I like talking to people and being outdoors. So I found auditing up my stream because now I'm talking to people, asking questions, and I'm moving around to different companies, different locations, sometimes traveling overseas, right? So that is good if that fits your personality, good. Some people just like to be entering numbers all day, like bookkeeper, whatever you want to call it. Some people like the concept of tax. Then you can branch off now into more like the IT side of things. If you like computers, if you like programming, you can help develop accounting software packages. Good. You can also branch off into the finance side, like you want to be an advisor, financial advisor, because you like the concept of wealth and management. So just having your first couple of years at a CPA firm, you figure out what kind of accounting you like. That fits your personality.
And you said you worked in PwC when you first started?
Deloitte first,
Deloitte, okay.
And then PwC afterwards.
Got it. What led you to studying accounting? Were you interested in it as a kid?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the math, my love for math.
Right.
Right. So I wanted to become an engineer, but then my physics teacher was not impressive, and I found my accounting teacher much more interesting. And he always told us too that, if God forbid you failed all your classes, if you pass your accounting class, you can get a job as like a teller in a bank or something. It's the one subject that you can guarantee to get a job with when you're done.
A lot of job security.
Job security, right?
Can we go back a little bit more to what your day is like? I guess like the technical stuff.
Right. So in my current role now, I'm more of like an overseer, so to speak, right?
Okay.
So I do a lot of review of other people's work. Mm-hmm. Good. But oftentimes that involves just being able to make sure, was that test done properly, be inquisitive. Right, so I'm always looking at stuff, asking, hey, was this done the right way? Did this make sense? Did you pick the right sample size to test? Did you look at the right evidence? And then also now being able to package that and report and write and deliver and explain and present. So having your public speaking skills, your people management skills, right? And being empathetic at times too, communication skills, right? That's the soft skills part of an accountant, which is also important, which we should never forget too as well, right? When you're taking college classes and they say, hey, the inventory is 6 million. In real life, you have to go out there and you actually have to walk and count the inventory. So you got to be able to relate to people, interact with people, talk to people. So the soft skills are very important, and that's what 60% of my job is right now. Communication, soft skills. But in the other aspects of it, back when I used to be a tester, my day would involve, hey, we need to test this particular control, send an email, shoot me your evidence, let me test the control, is it working? Fine, sign off, and go through that. In doing that process, you may encounter some kind of fraud at times. It could be a genuine error, right? But from this standpoint, whether you're doing that detailed day-to-day testing or reviewing the work, as in my case, at the end of the day, you're contributing to making sure that the company has a good internal control structure in place, right? That your financial statements are okay, so your stock price will not drop. And ultimately, that may impact your 401k, right? So you don't want to be working for a company and your stock price is down, your 401k is down. So you play a part, even though you may not see it, and this is from an accounting standpoint, working for the company itself, you may not realize that you're contributing to the financial stability of your organization, right? Vis-a-vis working for a CPA firm where you're more, you're the auditor coming in to advise the client, right? Now on the client side, internally, you're participating to make sure that your company is strong and credible and stays intact on the stock market.
There's a shortage of accountants. That's sort of the whole purpose of this project. Yeah. And you've taught at many universities and taught accounting there. And I was wondering if you have any insight. Do you think that there's cause for concern? Do you know why the number of students who are enrolling in accounting programs is falling? So
I've been tracking this for the last 10 years or so, right? There is a drop in accounting numbers, right? And there are different reasons. One is the requirements to become like a CPA. And now it's 150 credit hours in quite a few states, which basically boils down to 5 years of college. Good. So having to spend 5 years of college versus 4 years in a different degree is one of the factors that is contributing to that, right? I know that the AICP and different states are trying to make adjustments to that, where you can probably just do 4 years, and at some point later on you get the extra year instead of having a 5-year degree. So different institutions are trying to make adjustments to that, but that's definitely one area. The other thing too is that some accounting departments are old school and they like you to be in person in the office. Good. And
people want to work from home.
Yes, so many jobs now where you can work from home, right? So if your accounting department is not with the times and you want people to be in the office, that's going to be a factor that's preventing individuals from wanting to work for you, and therefore when they do all that research, they don't want to go in accounting because they're going to say, hey, you have to go in the office 3-4 days a week, right? But it's like law. It's a profession, like a legal profession or like the medical profession. Good. You don't want a doctor that only spends 3 years in college, right? to perform an operation on your body, right? You don't want a lawyer to represent you only spent 4 years studying.
You want them to know their stuff.
Right? So people have to respect accounting as a profession like those. It takes a long while to get good at it, right? 4 or 5 years in college is just a start. Then you have the practical aspect of it. And some kids just don't want to, they want the quick money. So you find that some people who are into numbers, they probably prefer to go into finance, the stock market, because that seems like a quicker way to get rich. You see all these movies and these meme stocks, and I want to go into that, right? If I can make $1,000 in one day, why would I want to study for 5 years to become a CPA? And so there are different things playing a part. But if you kind of go back to the fact that, hey, you understand money, you understand the value of money. If you have a business, you know how to run the business. Nobody can come and steal your money from you because you're a CPA, you understand how numbers work. At the end of the day, it gives you more comfort that you understand your financial state, right? Whether it's personal or any business that you start to go off on your own. Good. So you have heard so many stories of, I don't know how to do that, let me hire an accountant. How do you know he's not robbing you? Right? How do you know he's not stealing your money?
Yeah.
Good? So just the knowledge of what he's doing is very helpful.
Yeah, that's one draw for me, is I like understanding how a business works.
Right.
From the inside out.
Yeah,
One question is, how many computer monitors do you use?
So if you went into my office upstairs, you're going to see 7.
7?
Actually, let me clarify. I have one laptop with four screens, so that if you count all screens, that's 5 screens. Then I have a separate one over here just for some ancillary stuff, which is another laptop and 2 screens. So I have 6 screens and 2 laptops.
Wow, I think that's the record so far. And Microsoft Excel,
Yes.
how much do you rely on that? How good are you at it?
Let me explain it this way. Back in college in 1993 or 1991, we had what is called Lotus 1, 2, 3 at the time. I loved it because I love math, and the fact that you can do these calculations so quickly. I did my essays in Lotus 1, 2, 3. Just so you understand.
Wow.
I didn't know how to use word star. I used Lotus to do my essays.
Just merge and wrap.
Wrap and merge. That's how I loved it. So right now on my computer, every single thing is on Excel.
Wow.
My budget, anything I'm going to do is on Excel. My doctor's visits, everything is there. Every single thing is on Excel.
I briefly watched the Excel competition. I think it was in Vegas this year. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, yeah.
So my last question for you is, what advice do you have to those out there who might be considering studying accounting? And if you want to share any wisdom that you've learned throughout your career?
Try and listen to other people who have gone through it, right? Because at some point in time, people would have gone through what you are experiencing right now. I don't know what to do. I don't like this part of it. I don't like that part of it. No job is perfect, right? So try and spend time listening to other people. Many universities have guest presenters come in and talk about accounting, whether it's career day or whatever it is. Listen to those, but also go outside too and try and go on your website.
Yes.
What's it, right?
What's it like?
What's it like? Good. Do your research, right? And look at different kinds of people. Good. My situation is different. I came from the Caribbean, so I relocated here. So my path is different, right? But then look at other people. Look at a female's part. Look at a man's part. Look at someone who's older going back into the workforce. Look at someone who had a different background and decided to just choose accounting all of a sudden. So look at different people and their experiences, and within that, you're going to find something that you can tap into. And that will tell you, hey, that is for me, that's not for me, right? So spend time researching, that's the most important thing.
Rohan Chambers, thank you so much for your time today.
No problem.